Hello and welcome to another engaging episode of Stan the History Man. I'm your host, Dr. Stanley Sandler. Well, today I want to talk about the difference in the study and education and so on. I saw a report a number of students who rely upon medication for ADHD or concentration problems. Now, I'm not knocking this or anything. I don't want to get into that. But my experience was going through college with no meds, or although we had it then, but I didn't get into it. I don't think many people did, but we did have pep pills then and Benzedrine inhalers, and most of those were, of course, available on the black market. They were not prescribed. So so my experience was. I think what we had in those days was a lot less distraction than we had today. I think one important point was there weren't that many people. There were far fewer people taking even the BA degree. I remember when I was applying for a job in Philadelphia, um, just after my BA, they escorted me to a special room to fill out the applications for, and that was for these not graduate students, these were the BA students. Well, I'm sure that's long gone now. So and you can imagine a lot fewer than going on to graduate work. And so I think another thing, the fewer people were involved, of course, and that's one less distraction. The cell phones, of course, we had nothing remotely approaching a cell phone, and of course, nothing approaching a computer. And I think the computer is really for some people, they like it, but I'm just saying it was different. And I can see that a distraction would be, for example, you're doing grammar aids, and I mean here you are working on, let's say, a new interpretation of the Boer War, and there you see, oh, I misspelled that word, and you get back again, but it's kind of off. I mean, it distracts you, okay? I mean, it doesn't mess up your whole dissertation, but just one more distraction. And I think another thing that we did not have to go through, again, with fewer people involved, was massive construction. I think hospitals and universities nowadays are always under construction. And the overhead cranes and the noise and the dust and the trucks. I'm sure even if you're safely in a library somewhere, you can't avoid the vibration and the noise from that. Not in every case, but I think it's far more common today than it was then. Also, we relied a lot less on our cars. In fact, I would say if you're going into your MA or PhD program, don't have a car. And you can say, well, how can I get around? Well, probably if you're a small college or whatever, or university, you're doing graduate work, um, there will be some you could probably walk around. But if it's larger, they all have shuttle buses now. They had more than they used to. In the old days, they just chop down the trees and the grass and build more parking lots. But they're reversing that now, and I can see why. So I think you've got shuttle buses now. Do not get a car because that will really distract you. You worry about car payments. You're worried about you need new tires, et cetera, et cetera. So far less cars. I think another thing would be television. And as an undergraduate, well, as a graduate student for that matter, but I mean, in an undergraduate dorm, I don't remember any student having a TV set. Now, the TV set, the reason why, I think mainly because they were big and expensive, okay? I'm sure TVs have come down in solid, exchange of inflation factor and so on. They're far cheaper than they used to be. As a matter of fact, I remember there was a program I wanted to see called Air Power. And so I talked to one of the teachers into letting me into her house. And every Sunday afternoon or evening, I think I'd watch Air Power, but I never dreamed of having my own TV set. So, and certainly the same thing in graduate school and so on. The TV sets back then were expensive. You had a set. The same thing with cars. You had a car, your family, there was a family car. It doesn't mean like, well, then the wife has to have a car to drive to, and the son thinks that the school buses suck, and then I have 3 or 4 cars per family. Didn't have that. The same thing with television. You had one big TV set, and the family would sit down and watch it, okay, but not TV sets all over the place. So two major sources of distraction, I think, are less TVs that we had in those days, and less automobiles. So I guess that's will tell you that some of the differences we had between your day and mine. One other thing I should mention is that without those distractions, I was able to spend about 6 to 8 hours a day working on actually writing my dissertation. I had my notes on a 3x5 card I'd gotten from secondary sources. I'd line them up on one side, on one part of the table, and alongside that, I'd have a legal pad, a yellow legal pad. So I'd sit there and write from the notes and use a fountain pen. I thought, I mean, we did have ballpoints then, but I thought, well, this is kind of serious, a PhD. So I wrote it out in fountain pen again about 6 to 8 hours. So I guess I wasn't distracted. And it's also, I should mention that uh, I was often the only student in the facility there at the main Admiralty Library. Okay, um, and there's a different. It's just a different world, a different perspective. And again, I wouldn't want to say there's anything wrong with a shame in taking meds. It's just that we didn't have them, and I think that enabled us. One of the things that enabled us to concentrate more fully in getting off our work. So a different perspective, a different world. Well, thank you for listening, and I hope you'll tune again soon to Stan the History Man.